This is the Nana camera from Film Never Die, and in this video I'm going to feature an unboxing, taking it out on its first test shoots, and an overall summary of my first impressions at the end. Film Never Die is a company established in Australia in 2011 that began selling Polaroid film and cameras and expanded into offering a broader range of services, including operating a lab. They now also sell their own film and cameras too. I was recently sent this brand new premium point and shoot camera to feature in my videos. This is a gifted product, but I'm not being paid to create this video. I'm completely free to create and say what I want with this camera, so I thought I would bring you along with me as I test it out and offer my reactions alongside the experience. First impressions opening this up are set high by the gorgeous design of the box. I love this graphic. This is a special launch edition and includes a few extras alongside the camera. In the box there's a case, the camera includes a leather strap. I love these for point and shoots. You can either keep them on your wrist or add on to a lanyard. And also this little keychain. The most striking aspect of the camera is the metal front. This is inspired by the Contax T2. These cameras go for incredibly high prices secondhand. Another nice touch is that the camera has a UV filter included on its front with a 30mm thread, and this is interchangeable, so you can swap in other 30mm accessories such as polarizers, color filters, or even infrared filters. Although the bundle comes with a roll of the Film Never Die Zatsu 400 film, this film is described as having quite a desaturated look, and as I haven't used this camera before, I wanted to use it with a more common film stock for easier comparison with other photos I've taken before. I started off with a roll of Ilford Kentmere 400. I'd been recommended that this camera worked particularly well with black and white photos. Like all point and shoots, the number one test is how does this fare as an everyday carry camera. So I carried it with me for a few weeks, capturing a range of different photos about in Bristol and Cardiff. I had some issues with my first test rolls with the camera. It turns out that you need to be quite precise with the positioning of the film canister, as the film advance can really struggle if you don't have it perfectly flat. You can see in these photos from a roll of Kentmere 400, the frame is clipped when the film advance mechanism has struggled to advance the film on by a full frame. You can see how this has impacted a number of my photos where the distance of the film advance has been inconsistent. The motor has struggled to drag the film clearly into the next frame. The issue was apparent to me as I took the photos, as I would have to pump the shutter button to try and stimulate the film advance when it had not successfully wound on far enough after taking a photo. I could track this by checking how far the film counter had moved, and it would often take a number of careful presses to try and advance the film just on by one frame. This did also lead to some misfires and accidental frames too, and was generally quite frustrating to work through to try and finish the roll. I had been told that the camera is quite power hungry too, so at the time I suspected the issue I was having with advancing the film stemmed from the power drain on the batteries, but swapping them out and checking the contacts didn't do much to help. With some further research to check if I had just got a faulty unit or if it was a common issue, I saw that Film Never Die had updated their guide for the camera to include troubleshooting notes that acknowledged this issue with sensitivity when loading. So while there's an element of user error from me involved here, Film Never Die themselves have also clearly had enough feedback from the community that loading this camera can be tricky to get right and is an issue you have to be careful of. I think for a camera that's pitched at being convenient and easy to use to make film photography more accessible, this is an unfortunate problem for the camera to have. So when you load the camera and shut the back, be mindful of if the back is bulging at all, and if you hear the sluggish motor sound, just hit the rewind button on your camera before shooting any photos and reload the film again, making sure to keep the canister as flat as possible. A nice feature here is that the rewind doesn't roll your film all the way back into the canister and leaves you with a little bit of leader. I grabbed an old expired roll and practiced loading the camera again a few times to get it working with good advancing motion before I put another roll of fresh film into it. Having conquered the film advance issues, I gave the Nana another go with Kodak Gold 200 while visiting Tampa, and I'm pleased to say it made it through the complete roll without any issues with the film advance. Here are some better sample images to judge the camera's performance. The Nana camera has an f11 fixed lens and a 1/125 shutter, so it's recommended to use at least a 400 speed film when shooting with it. I did choose to use a 200 speed film in Tampa, but this was where I knew I'd have consistently bright sunlight for daylight shooting, and I was worried that picking a higher ISO could lead to overexposure. The camera also has a focus-free 31mm fixed lens that can cover 2 meters to infinity. For a point and shoot, the performance of the lens is acceptable, but there is a noticeable fall off in optical quality from the center of the image to the outer edges of frame. You can see how the image deteriorates in quality as chromatic aberration starts to affect the edges of objects. The sharpness also falls off towards the outside of frame, and you can see the smudging effect here quite clearly. The lens also introduces a lot of bowing, and I frequently use lens correction in Lightroom to compensate for this. I like the color and contrast in these images. As an everyday carry camera, I did enjoy the experience of using the Nana camera on this second round. But in terms of image quality, for a point and shoot, the performance of the lens is pretty average. and I frequently use lens correction in Lightroom to compensate for this. I did feel on a number of instances that the bowing introduced to the image was so noticeable that I had to correct the photos. Again, for beginners that are looking for images ready to use straight out of camera, this is going to be less than ideal and it introduces an extra step into the edit process. The Nano camera sits in an interesting space. This is a camera for beginners, so it will draw a lot of direct comparisons with plastic point and shoots like the Kodak M35, M38, Lomography Simple Use, or Rito Ultra Wide and Slim. But the emphasis here is on the premium experience, and it has a price point to match that. While the image quality from this camera is perfectly acceptable, I think for the price point, I would expect a little bit better performance here. I think given the additional investment that Film Never Die have made in putting in a glass lens, I would expect something a little bit better here. For the sake of comparison, here are some images I've taken with the Kodak Ektar H35 half-frame camera. Also, you can see some images here from the Kodak M38. This is a very simple plasticky point and shoot camera. When we're jumping up in price point by over £100, I would expect the Nano camera to be able to deliver a much bigger increase in quality compared to the simple use cameras. If you want a budget option, there are plenty of perfectly good alternatives that are available at a cheaper price point. This is really a camera for those that want to prioritize aesthetic over everything else. All the presentation and packaging are stunning. It is a lovely experience unboxing this camera. The weight of the camera itself with its thick metal front plate certainly reinforces that. And it is a really nice camera to hold in your hand. I do really like flicking the lens cover open on this. It catches the light in a fantastic way. It is nice to hold in your hand and it's got lovely details and finishes that do set it apart from a more plasticky basic point and shoot. The Film Advance adds convenience, but it also introduces more opportunity for error, as I experienced. So to me, the only selling point I can see for the Nano is if you want to elevate the aesthetics of your point and shoot camera and don't want to go through the process of buying secondhand. If we look at the price point of a Contax T2, which Film Never Die cite as an inspiration for this camera, you'll see it's a range of different prices hovering around that £1,000 mark. For me in the UK, the launch edition of the Nano camera has a list price of £178. So Film Never Die are certainly successful in giving you the option to own a point and shoot that's reminiscent of the Contax T2 for far less money than buying the real deal. But this is still a significant investment that could be better spent elsewhere, even if that was just on extra film and development to go with a more basic camera. It's also important to remember that the T2 has a lot more features than the Nano camera. So if you are set on a Contax T2 for its specification, the Nano won't tick all the boxes. Is this a camera I would buy myself though? It's really difficult to justify this without better performance at this price point. It looks good, it has a solid build, but the images it produces are not enough to justify the jump in price over its competitors. The price point it sits in is an open area in the market between the basic point and shoot and then jumping up into these higher price point new entries. It's nowhere near as expensive as the Pentax 17 or the Rollei AF. So Film Never Die were right in saying that there is a gap in the market for a camera like this, but I think for me, there's still a need for better optics and better optical quality with the results. If you've been considering Film Never Die's Nano camera, I hope you found this overview video helpful and can now make a more informed decision on if this camera is right for you. Please do leave a comment if you've got any feedback for me or have other tips to share with the community based on your own experience with this camera. And if you're new here, please make sure to subscribe to my channel for more film photography videos.